I made death an exercise because when you are attached to life, you want to keep the things as you observe them. And in my life, I've been changing everything constantly. Like, oh, I created this, now I will destroy it. I allow my body to have the struggle and the feeling of something is dying so I can be reborn. Why it was water inside a glass when I can be a galaxy. Because I thought I feel contained in the glass of water, I'm not allowing myself to become stars. But only when I go to the void, I can be both at the same time. The whole mindset starts to reset and starts to be a blessing for the new things to come. One of the things that I would say to the people that are close to people that have died is allow those people to expand. Because if we grab them and say, I want for you to stay with me, you provoke a contraction. They cannot come back to the body. So they get stuck in the energetics of a place. Most of us suffer because we want to hold the character as if it's us. If I lose this, or if I stop doing that, I might lose myself. Who am I after that? The same thing that before gave us life and energy is the same thing that is killing you.
What if the very fabric of our reality is based in a cosmic mistake? In this episode of the Healing and Human Potential podcast, we have Matías De Stefano back on, who's picking up right where we left off, where he left us with a cliffhanger talking about the mistake. So we're going to explore this hidden flaw woven within existence and how to break free from survival programming to spiritual awakening. We also talk about non-duality, timelines, and why the unraveling in our lives might actually be the initiation that creates true freedom. Again, our guest today, Matías De Stefano, is a spiritual teacher and multidimensional explorer. He's known for his memory of his past lives and his ability to explain complex cosmic truths in a really grounded and digestible way. He's here to help us decode what it is we're doing here on our school and the syllabus that most of us miss from the first day of class. Let's dive in. Let's have a conversation that's going to change the world. You start. I'm just kidding.
Well, I would hope I could do that.
I think you can. I wanted to have you back on for a few reasons. Your episode 49, the first episode we did, was not only the most popular episode we've ever had, but you left us with a cliffhanger when you were talking about the mistake. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
That there's this flaw in existence that's so woven in that it's almost not recognizable, and it may not even be from this world, is what I think you said.
Yes.
I'm like, tell us everything.
Well, we would need like many podcasts to try to clarify that. And even for myself, it's part of my life mission. So it's not like something I have clear.
Yeah.
It's something that I felt, remembered, and that I am working on. So every day, every week, there's a new clue on all of that. And that's what amazed me all the time. But first of all, I would like to say that it's not that, from my point of view, there is a mistake with everything, or that the universe has like a mistake, let's say, because of course, from the point of view, when you are connected to everything, everything is perfect and you can sense it, like everything makes sense, everything is perfect. Even though we are, not we as humans, but nature is constantly trying to fix problems. Life is programmed to try to fit a structure that is not matching. So basically every atom, every frequency in the universe is trying to match with something to try to balance something. So the reason why protons and electrons and neutrons are getting together and sharing, exchanging energy is basically because they are trying to compensate something. Because the only truth and perfection of the entire universe is the void. It's like this grace that holds everything that doesn't exist. It's this massive thing that is impossible to understand. But what we can grasp to understand, which is the seen aspect, the one that we can perceive, is constantly trying to compensate something, which means that that's our perfection. That's our beauty, let's say. Then life, it's about that. And we can explain that constantly. But once I was connected to, let's say, an energy that the Indians call Brahma, which I've never felt before. And and it was too powerful. Like my body couldn't stand just a tiny slice of that. And he kept repeating something that in my brain was translated into, how can a mistake know that it is a mistake if its very nature is the mistake? And I was like, what does this mean? And as I went through that rabbit hole, let's say, in my consciousness, it took me to this moment of creation that we all say that is the moment of the beauty and the creation, and Big Bang and appearance of all the particles in the universe and all the history and stars and I don't know, everything that we appreciate today as the origin of life. But from the point of view of the void, that was the mistake. So the void, the essence of everything, is constantly trying to compensate and balance the creation in order to see how can we harmonize finally the entire existence because of that tiny mistake. But actually that tiny mistake was done by many different ancient civilizations and future civilizations when they tried to control that moment, when they tried to become God, the very origin of everything. So by trying to control the moment of their origin or trying to understand it, they created technology, created ways to arrive to that moment. And the way you arrive to that moment is by going in. And you can go in two ways. You can go in meditation, or you can go with technology that can take you until the muons and quartz. And when you get there and you move it and you break it to see what is the origin of everything, you arrive to a moment within everything that doesn't have time. So whatever you touch there, you touch the origin of everything. It's not that you have to go to the past to do that. You just have to go away from the structures of reality to arrive to the origin. So we all live connected to that, but we are layers of that mistake. So we cannot actually appreciate that time doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. We are just different rhythms of that time that we created as a consciousness. And every time that science, or not just in this planet, but many others, are trying to reach the origin to control time, because one thing is control matter, but if you control time, you basically control every process of matter. And you can manipulate everything, like every atom, every structure. So when you go there and try to control time, every time that your consciousness observes with this point of view what happened in the origin, you are moving the structures in a different way, which creates ripples in time that traps us constantly. So it's creating mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. So every story, every atom, every molecule in this universe has been trying to correct those mistakes from the origin, which is not in the past, is in the tiniest aspect of the universe, that someone or some people, not just from here, has been trying to manipulate. So how do you find something that was moved from its place that actually is nowhere, but is everywhere, hidden in every code of the reality? So you have to pay attention to everything and to see how everything that seems not to be connected has a code for the others to repair it. The paradox here is, what happened when you repair it? Is you start all over, you disappear. What does it mean? So there are many stories from there.
Yeah. So, there are. And I feel like we're going to keep raveling back and forth through various ones, because there's so many portals to go down. Mm-hmm. And I want to go down all of the ones. And I know that the most important question we can ask is, who am I? Mm-hmm. How do you answer that?
Who am I? that, well, related to what I was just explaining, who am I is just one of the expressions, the main expression of the entire universe. But we have a misunderstanding of the concept I and am. So basically it's like something that starts to pulse, to create a pulse. So I is the essence and am is the pulse of that essence. So we translate it into I am, the force of the I am, because we can relate to it, because we evolve through an ego. So the ego is the easiest way to understand how everything can relate to me, to my point of view, to my hearing, to every one of my senses. How can I perceive everything is because of me. So I am according to what I perceive. I only see what I perceive. So I've been evolving according to that. So that means that every little mistake in the reality is my perception of my own mistake. So the whole thing is, how do I go back to the essence of all of it, to I? And from there, being, I can expand myself and express myself in this reality. So who am I is one of the main questions that we have to do constantly when we reach consciousness in order to repair that system, to bring everything that we projected outside into the right position and order. So it's like a practice that we have to do constantly. Who am I in this? Who am I with that? Who am I doing this? Who am I in this relationship? Who am I? So that question is the one that brings the particles to order, to try to find the right essence. And that is being asked by plants, is being asked by insects. It's not just humans. We all ask that constantly in different ways, with different resonance, vibration. So it's just to relocate the essence as it is supposed to be, and not just the perceptions that we have been adapting to.
Let's go back to the void.
Yeah.
The unknown, the vast unknown. Most people, I think, project their fears into the unknown.
Yeah.
And yet it's the fullest nothingness and the ground of being, of pure potential. Can you talk to us more about the void? Because I think it's going to help release some fear around it so that people can know themselves more deeply.
Yeah. Well, the first layer that we have when we hear the word void or emptiness is that we feel that it means nothing, that we exist because our entire body has been trying constantly to accumulate things to fulfill our bodies, to fill up our stomachs, to fill up with blood our heart so it keeps beating, to fill up our minds so we can find structures to hold to relate to people so we can understand that we are not alone. So in our survival history, we have been developing constantly ways to tell us that we have to fill up something, that every void that we have or every empty aspect of ourselves needs to be fulfilled with something or filled up, just that. So every time that we do something, it's like, oh, I don't feel complete. There's something missing. And it's like constantly these things that we say are establishing a pattern that makes us escape from the idea of void, of having something that is hollow. And it's a terrible image for someone that is trying to fulfill its life or to find something to complete themselves. Like love, we try to find someone else to complete ourselves and so on. But this void is not about that. This void is not about, oh, there's nothing and I have to fill it up. And if I don't fill it up, I become nothing. It's not that specific void. Basically, when you go to the infinite structure of particles, there's nothing. It's void. And even though that void is holding everything, it doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter if it's another galaxy or here, this glass of water. It's the same void that is holding the structure of everything. So when you go to that void, it's not something that you have to fill up. is something that allows you to be in that galaxy and in the glass of water. So you are everything. You are holding the structure of everything that you can possibly think of. So it's completely the opposite to what we were designed to understand about what is void and emptiness. So when scientists say, the universe is basically 0.0001% matter and the rest is void, it's like, so what? The 99.99% of the universe is void? What it means? What does it mean? So it means that it's holding everything that we perceive. So actually, that's the important aspect. That's the divine itself. And the reason why that void is so important is because it allows everything to exist without any conditioning. So that's why we feel comfortable in that expansion of nothing instead of feeling I'm losing it. So when you connect with that, it's totally different. And I used to use this way of explaining the void so people could understand it more closely, which is a guitar to make music needs a hole. So basically, not the void, but the emptiness of a room or the hole on the guitar is the thing that allows the sound to expand, the music to be heard. So that's like a simplest way to understand that the void is not something bad that you need to fulfill, because if you fill it up, the sound won't be the same. You cannot actually feel. That's why in order to actually find coherence between heart and mind, you need to be empty from all the expectations, feelings, patterns, ideas, preconcepts. You have to release all that in order to feel correctly. So that's the actual void.
Is it that you have to release it or be awake to it?
You have to realize that all of those things that you've been putting here, they maybe go here or here or in the hip, so, but they don't go on the heart or in the mind. They have their position. So you release them from the place where you place them, so they can be actually where they are supposed to be. And that's what it means to die in life, to let go. It's not like, I forget about it. It's about where do I have to place every idea, every emotion, every action that I took in the correct position of my body, of my soul, of my mind, so I can allow the Kundalini, the energy, flow correctly. Otherwise, you're creating points of gravity within your center that attach the energy and they start to spin instead of just moving through. So the Kundalini doesn't go like this, it starts to roll and roll and roll. And when the snake of fire, it starts to roll in one place, it creates a disease, a conflict, instead of moving.
Okay.
So that's why it's release the gravity from the center, so the energy the light, which is the photon, can move through and not get attached to the gravity of something that you have inside.
And I think when people are asking, who am I? And just sitting in stillness, they're looking for more content to fill it versus being with the unknown, the vast, silent awareness. And so just to offer people to hang out with that emptiness, because it's the fullest emptiness of everything. That is the birthing place from all of it, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you experience it?
I want to speak from experience.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, the emptiness. And, and I know it's not easy. I've been like, right now, sitting here.
Yeah.
But right now, I am in the middle of a process of destroying myself, where I feel that emptiness of not knowing what I'm supposed to do tomorrow. If I have to destroy everything that I created, disappear from the sight of everyone, I don't know. And the first thing that I feel is sadness and depression. And I have been feeling that for every day since last month. And it's been terrible. But every time that I tap in that emotion, my higher self says, don't think that that emotion is something that you have to release.
Yes.
But it's something you have to observe as a map, because it's what it's holding you to understand why are you feeling that. So it's not like, I have to feel happy, because it's not good to feel sad. It's allow yourself to be that sadness until you feel nothing, until you go beyond that so you can see the map. And I've been doing that, but means to basically release everything that was setting pressure on the existence, on being who you are supposed to be, starts to be ripped apart and destroyed. It's been like that, like even yesterday I had a big meltdown because of that, like saying to everyone I work with, saying, I want to disappear. I don't want to be here anymore. And it's not, even if I feel it like in sadness, it's like allowing yourself to go to that void and not thinking that is something to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
But something that is bringing you to a territory that is unknown. So it allows you to open yourself to new stuff, to new positions. As I said, maybe I was water inside a glass when I can be a galaxy. But because I thought I feel contained in the glass of water, I'm not allowing myself to become stars. But only when I go to the void, I can be both at the same time.
Thank you for sharing so transparently. I think it's going to serve a lot of people to also just to really allow whatever emotions come up without getting tossed by the waves, just to allow them to come up and pass through. Because there are people listening right now that are feeling exactly that way. They're feeling depressed. Whether it's from life situation or spiritual awakening and questioning existence. How could that be the greatest gift to really meet ourselves and the moment fully?
When I was 12 and I started to remember, one of the main things that I started to remember was every death. And I had to go through not only my death, but remembering the death of people I loved and how they started to disappear in front of my eyes and myself dying. So I made death kind of an exercise for me, which is also annoying for a lot of people that wants to keep living. And the main reason is because when you are attached to life, you want to keep the things as you observe them. And in my life, I've been changing everything constantly. Like, oh, I created this, and I will destroy it. I will do something else. And I will reincarnate in the same life in different projects or stuff, which is very unstable for many. And for me, it's like a natural state of destroying myself once and again, because I have to remember that that's how life is actually. If I get attached to one shape or one idea, then I will be stuck in the same process. So you start to see all the patterns that are stuck all the time and kind of like, oh, I want to destroy them so I can keep on going. I want to die so I can keep on going. So I think that for everyone that is living in situations like that, in my own personal experience, I allow myself to suffer it because it's not that I want to suffer, but I allow my body to have the struggle and the feeling of something is dying. So my consciousness can actually work and say, now I know that because I'm dying, I can be reborn. So the whole mindset starts to reset and starts to be a blessing for the new things to come. But of course, the process is difficult. But if you fight it on, you shouldn't feel like that, or don't cry, these kind of things that people used to say, it's all going to be okay. It doesn't have to. Like, if you put your mindset on everything's going to be okay, you're going to get out of this, or these kind of things, you don't allow yourself to actually finish the process.
It's well intended, but then you're avoiding.
Exactly.
Versus fully allowing whatever sensation is coming up.
Yeah.
Imagine having a fulfilling career doing what you love, working from anywhere in the world, setting your own hours while making good money and a big impact. If that lights you up, then I'm super excited to share with you today's sponsor, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. This is my robust, accredited, year-long certification program for newer seasoned coaches, therapists, leaders, and those just looking to up-level their life in a profound way. We have an amazing community of students from all around the world who have really started their journey to expand with us both personally and professionally. And this experience is designed to give you the 3 things that you need to thrive. So first, you have all of the tools and support you need to move past what's been holding you back so that you can completely change the trajectory of your life. And then you learn how to masterfully and confidently facilitate transformation with your clients or your team, regardless of your niche. If you want to do health, business, relationship, or you just have no idea yet, we hold your hand through that. And then lastly, you'll receive my 6-figure and beyond signature roadmap that's customizable to meet you wherever you are. So whether you want to do high ticket sales, online marketing, or you just want to hit 6 figures without ever needing to go on social media, we've got you covered. And this truly is the most rewarding work in the world. We have new students now who have a wait list of dream clients in under a year. We also have seasoned students who are doing $80,000 months. And this is really about creating lasting transformation from the inside out so that you can share your gifts and serve the world in all the ways that you're called to. And I've seen firsthand the power of what happens when you have the community to collaborate with, but you also have the right tools and resources to really thrive. And so whether you want to do your own personal development, you're wanting to become a coach, or you're just looking for a cutting edge approach to really grow your business, the Institute for Coaching Mastery is for you. You are held every single step of the way. And so if you want to get behind the scenes access to the Institute with 3 proven transformational tools for free to help you create the business and life you love, all you have to do is go to alyssanobriga.com/tools, or you can find us at alyssanobriga.com/apply now to see all the details and apply today. I'm curious because my audience is very interested in healing, spirituality, and psychology. And in your process, knowing yourself deeply, part of the work that I support my students in is embodying the truth of what they are while letting the egoic structures come up and allow whatever feelings, sensations, or thoughts to be met as if essence embraces ego. From the point of view of the void, of the truth of what you are, allowing any of these egoic patterns, stories, thoughts, feelings, sensations coming up to be allowed fully. Is that how you orient around it?
I don't have any technique of anything. I basically, when I start to feel like this, I just allow myself to feel it. The essence is like the void. It has no point of relation. So it's holding everything. So it cannot relate to anything directly. It's just there for the everything. So the ego is basically like the focus on your side. Like, okay, I have so many things and I am so many things that I will put my attention into this spot here. So that spot becomes the point of gravity of the whole. So all of it starts to spin towards it like a galaxy, and it creates the ego. So the ego is this point of gravity. So the essence can say, oh, I can relate to that. I have something to relate to now. So what happened? If the essence grows bigger and bigger, so more things will go to that point of gravity. So a person that has nothing in its life usually don't have much to carry in the ego, because it's not carrying the weight of anything, like any mission, purpose, or relationships, or friends or family or whatever, or money. It's just free. That's why a lot of people, to release the ego, they just go to a cave in the middle of nowhere and they start to meditate and leave everything behind, even the clothes. Because in that way, you have nothing to think of, nothing that the ego can be attached to or carry as a point of attention. And that's why we have this common belief that doing that is to release the ego.
Yeah.
Which is not.
It's not.
Actually, it's not how it works. We have this common belief in the same way as we believe in karma or these kind of things. It's like a common thing that someone said and we start to repeat it, but it's not what it means. Or like reading the Bible. You know, like it's completely the opposite to what it's written, what is said. And the person that goes to the mountain and release everything, there is ego too. But it's a healthy ego because it's not attached to anything. Physically, it brings that process into experience. But there's a lot of people that are also detached from everything, having a lot of things, having family, having money, having whatever. You can also be totally detached from ego. And usually it's the people that is not talking about it.
Yeah. They're just living it silently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of, you don't notice them.
Yeah.
They go unnoticed in life usually. This is because they don't have to show anything, or they don't have to prove themselves anything, because if they have it or not have it, it's the same.
Yeah.
And that's ego, but that's a healthy ego. Mm-hmm. It's a healthy ego because it can use the points of gravity, but don't be attached to those points of gravities.
Yeah, it's almost
That's
like
healthy.
playing a character, knowing that you're playing a character.
Exactly.
Not attached to it. It's just part of the play.
So most of us suffer because we want to hold the character as if it's us. And if I lose this, I might lose that part. If I leave this, or if I stop doing that or whatever, I might lose myself. Mm-hmm. Who am I after that? Mm-hmm. That's where I'm going right now. Mm-hmm. In
the
that
discovery.
Process, that's where I'm right now. Is that question, like, who I'm going to become if I am not what I build up? So if I have to leave everything. And that's the difference between essence and ego. Like, the ego is trying to survive. So when the essence comes in life, the essence is like, I don't care if I have this or I have that, or I do this, or I have this relationship with someone.
Or if I have an ego.
Or even if I have an ego. Yeah. Like, I am, and that's it. I'm not even, it's like, not even I am, it's like, it's that. Yeah, it's just that. And the ego is like, oh, I am in between all of that. So to be healthy in that is not to try to leave things away or relationships away. It's about being more in your essence and let the things just happen instead of trying to control them, which is what we all try to do by nature.
I love the quote, let what comes come, let what goes go, find out what remains. Mm-hmm. And just that moment to moment practice of really inquiring into, and part of your practice, allowing all of it to be. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, I know people use different terms, and so I want to, because we're not using the same term for sure. Yeah. And so I think it's good just to unpack them. Talk to us about what you understand spiritual awakening to be, and what would you say to people that are interested in spiritual awakening?
Well, it's not what it looks like.
Yeah, the sales pitch for it's very different than the reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to make it beautiful so people go into it. But actually,
that first kiss of awakening, my teacher would say the first one's free.
Yeah, the first one's free. Yeah. I always love to say that spirituality actually translates literally to the ability to breathe. So spirituality is not about channeling dimensions or knowing what I remember, or this is not spirituality. Spirituality is whoever manages the breathing and knows how to be in presence. So the ability to breathe, that's what it actually means. So when you try to connect with it, whatever, it's like, go back to remember how to breathe. And that's very difficult for all of us because we are not in a constant breathing process. And some people that are in the breathing process, they are trying to demonstrate that they can do it. So they are not also in the actual breathing process. Breathing process is like being a baby and having this breath and allow themselves to cry if they need to release the tension. And so it's not about looking spiritual, meditating and breathing like in yoga. It's about actually allowing the art of breath to express. So a spiritual awakening is like when a baby does like that's a spiritual awakening. For example, it's like getting out of another human's body, feeling the pressure of the air in your lungs and changing completely from a not breathing being inside a womb to someone that has to do this in order to expand. So you were compressed in your reality, and now you are expanded in your reality. But for that, you need to know how to breathe. And a spiritual awakening is comparable to being born. And being born, usually in this planet, is like trauma for the baby, unless the mother is very well prepared during her whole life on knowing how to give birth. Otherwise, it's a process that is traumatic, because it's like getting out to a different environment. You don't feel the pressure and the heat anymore. Now you can sense so many other things, and you can see so many other beings around you. Before, it was all filtered by your mother. Mm-hmm. Now you don't have filter. You see so many things, and it burns your eyes and bothers your ears, and now you need to eat, and having teeth hurts. And so that's a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is like going layer after layer to realize that you need to adapt a new breathing, that you need to adapt to new lightning. So it's a constant process of adaptation. It's not sitting there and feeling I'm in peace. Mm-hmm. That's not spirituality. Spiritual awakening is a constant process that you have gone through as you enter this world when you were born. So imagine that again, but now with dimensions instead of just air and people. Yes.
There's a few things I want to do, but I want to come back to the Kundalini and the energy getting stuck. Mm-hmm. So can you break that down a little bit for people, just so that they understand how to keep the energy fluid and clear and not have it get stuck in their system?
Mm-hmm. Well, to compare this with what actually happens in the universe, speed of light. So the light, the photons are moving so fast that we compare everything to the speed of light. So how many light years it takes for you to arrive from one place to the other. Like the light from the sun to the earth, I think it takes like 8 minutes from the surface of the sun to our surface of the earth. So it's very fast, and it goes very fast in a spiral way. Like the photons move like this, very fast in the universe with nothing stopping them. So for the universe, they move fast, but actually they never actually are moving. So it's like kind of a paradoxical thing for a photon. So what happens? When a photon gets trapped by the gravity of this planet and the gases of this planet, the photon starts to heat every particle. And instead of just keeping going from the sun to another world, to Jupiter, let's say, it gets trapped in our atmosphere. And that's why we see, for example, this color, like blue sky, is actually photons heating ozone and helium. So like this, so we can perceive that color. But it's because a lot of photons are being trapped in our world by this gravity and all the particles that are here. And that's why we see the colors. It's just reflections of those photons that got trapped in Earth. So now imagine that your body has a sun and another sun on the other side, and they both are sending photons throughout a channel, which is your center of your being, your spine, through the nerve system, through the core. But you have chakras, which are the planets. So those planets will be crossed by the photons. But what happened? The bigger that planet grows, the more photons it catches and trap them. So they start to shine, but also they start to vibrate very fast and being trapped, instead of in the presence, infinite presence of a photon throughout space. Now they get trapped and get chaotic. And that's why we feel heat. That's why we burn by radiation when we are taking some sun on the beach. So it's because of these photons and radiations being alterated here. So imagine a chakra that has more weight, that has more shades, more things are trapping more light and more light and more light, not allowing the light to go from one planet to the other, from one sun to the other, feeling that connectivity of the infinite space. So it creates life, for example, that allows the chakras to shine, so it gives energy. And that's how we see the colors, the wavelength of the photons around us. That's why we say red, orange, yellow, the colors of the chakras are not different. It's just one spectrum of a photon that moves in different wavelengths. So it's the same photon moving in different wavelengths. So we see red, orange, and so on. So that's why we see the colors of the chakras, basically. So all this rainbow that we have within ourselves is because photons are crossing from the sun to the ground by gravity and being expanded by this sun that we have above us, the higher self. Mm-hmm. So if we are aligned, these colors will shine like a rainbow. But if we start to trap emotions, relationships, fears, attachments, we start to grab more gravity and gravity and gravity, so it's less light going through. So the rainbow starts to kind of disappear. And so you get stuck in one specific moment. Like, for example, a lot of attachments to a place, it creates a lot of weight in the root chakra. So it's more long waves. So that means more red light, which means that I'm going to get more anger and rage and because I'm trying to protect territory. So the photon starts to be more attached there. So I will have much more red energy, and the other ones will be lower and lower because all the photons are vibrating in that wavelength. So that's why we see a rainbow through us. But if that light gets attached by too much gravity in one point of your body, so it changes the whole configuration.
And I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, then the healing work that we do would then help us have less of those attachments and have more harmony within our chakra system. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. And so it's basically like saying, okay, if I have a lot of attachment here in this chakra, maybe I'm losing strength in my legs also. So why? Because I'm taking all the power of my knees and my hips to put it here, to nourish something that needs to be fulfilled. Mm-hmm. So what do I have to do? It's not about releasing that energy. It's about relocating it to the hips, to the knees, to the bones. So I spread the energy where it's supposed to be so the photons can cross correctly and correct that's the healing.
What is your orientation around having really aligned chakras and Kundalini energy to awakening?
Of course, the awakening happens when the light of your own sun crosses directly to your own world. That means that there's nothing that can stop you from feeling that light. So that's why realign the chakras, reorganize the information that you have in them, allowing a black hole to be in the center of everything so the energy can just go through.
I have this analogy of the rain stick. You know how it hits up and makes noise? This it's an instrument.
Oh, yes.
Like that. Mm-hmm. And so if there's less blocks and holding patterns, then it just moves through more clearly. Mm-hmm. Tell me your viewpoint around illness, because I imagine it relates to this.
Mm-hmm. I like, in Spanish, illness is enfermedad. And I like the origin of that word because enfermo, enfermedad, means to be stopped. So someone that got stopped and got still. And because the energy is not moving, it gets stuck. So you get ill. That's the way to understand the word. So basically, it's like when you get sick, when you create a dam for that water to go through. So you start to accumulate water. And you say, well, water is not bad. It's bad when it's accumulated and it doesn't flowing. So it then can become, I don't know, the water can get rotten and suddenly smelly. And so that's what happens. That's why we get ill, because the flow of the energy is not the correct one. So we start to create a dam of energy, a dam of power and light. And the same thing that before gave us life and energy is the same thing that is killing you. Just because you are blocking with a lot of things that you're putting inside in order to feel that you hold it. Because one of the beautiful things about how this works is that in order for you to have it, you need to release it. That's eating and pooping. But energy is the same. You receive and give. So if you keep all of that because, I just received all this energy and I want to keep it for myself, the same thing that was so amazing, it will get you ill.
What would you say to somebody that is dealing with an illness? How would you recommend that they work with their energy? Would you support them in doing some psychological healing, more energy work? I mean, obviously, they're going to take care of their physical health and see a doctor and things, but any pointers?
I have a friend that had cancer, and we did some ceremonies together, and I was receiving this, my higher self speaking. And of course, in Spanish, it wouldn't make any sense, but in English, he speaks English, he found a way to explain this with the similarities of the words, which is, in order to heal, you have to know where to put your heel. I was like, what does it mean? When you stand up, health means that you are in your center. So to be in your center, when you are standing up, where are your heels? So health is where you put your heels. So you can have your center. So one gets ill when doesn't know where to put the next step. So the question is not about your illness, is about where are you going? Or where are you staying? Where you're staying is a healthy center for you. Do you know where you're going to put your heel in the next step? Where are you heading to? What is their purpose? So the questions when there's an illness is not about how I heal the illness. It's about why I got stuck. Because the illness is just cells saying, hey, there's a problem here.
Disease.
So where are we going? So when all the attention is about how to heal the disease, you're just stuck in the energy again and again in the same trauma, in the same conflict, because all your attention and your heels are just thinking about the disease.
Would you say resistance, kind of like pushing your heels in?
Yeah, it's like, I'm feeling this, I have to be here with the disease. But most of the people, instead of asking the disease, why am I here? They try to avoid the disease, trying to heal it and saying, I have to be fine, I have to heal. I remember my grandmother died because of cancer, and we were at the hospital, and I said to her, there are two ways to walk this path. One is very long, but it might get you to where you're supposed to. The other one is short, but it will take you where you don't want to go. So the short one was, let's try chemo and trust the doctors. Of course, it's something that can heal you too. But of course, it's going to kill more cells than actually heal them. The other one is to walk the path. Where are you? Where have you been? Where are you going to? Do you actually want to heal? So do you have to face why you have this disease? So all of that is longer, of course, but it might get you to the real point. And I remember she looked at me and said, and she said, so what would be the first thing to do? And I said, well, you have to forgive my grandfather, your husband. He was dead many years ago, and you have to speak with him. And she said, let's go for the short one.
No.
Yeah, she died, of course.
Yeah.
But But yeah, she didn't want to face
That was hard for
whole
her.
situation.
Yeah. These defense mechanisms can really be protection and just to have compassion if somebody's choosing that path.
Yeah.
I keep hearing acceptance as a foundation for living. It's like, oh, this dis-ease is feedback. What is it here to teach me? What is the feedback in it? How can I listen? Do I really want to heal? But I also hear you saying forgiveness, which would point back to doing the inner work. Is that right?
Yeah. And forgive is to give away. So that's the origin of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the ability to give something that doesn't belong to you. So I forgive you is actually, I'm not expecting anything and I give you what you have gave me back. So that's the concept of it. So I don't have the weight anymore of something that doesn't belong to me.
And you're giving it back. You're giving it away.
You're giving it away. You're giving
Lighter.
it back. So you are taking away the weight that you had in that chakra. So that's why forgiveness is not about the other person.
That's right.
It's always about yourself. So that's why I said the first thing is to release a weight that doesn't belong to you in order to focus just on you. So that's why you have to forgive first. So otherwise, you're not concentrating on yourself. You're just giving energy to someone else. So that's why you have to forgive everyone before you can do the work with yourself.
So you're saying forgiveness is the first step to do deeper work. What other work is there?
Well, forgiveness is one of the first ones. The next one, I believe, is to make the map on why did you accepted all those weights. So what are the cycles that you've been repeating that you accumulated that weight in you? That takes a long time because it means recognition, understanding, talking about it, having conversations even with people that are not there, but you can speak with someone like if that person was there. So it's part of the recognition of where is the map, where does the map leads me in my mind. So to understand all the moments that you had that disease, that same disease, that now is physical, but you had it before emotionally. So where did I feel this before?
I want to break it down. I want to make sure I'm understanding for people. So what you're saying, that it starts emotionally or energetically in your body, the chakras, and there's a holding, and the dis-ease is feedback.
Yeah.
And that the first step is forgiveness. And then the second step is really doing some self-analysis of understanding where has that pattern been playing out in my life, and more self-knowledge and looking at the patterns.
Yeah, that's the second thing that someone has to do.
Yeah.
Of course. And the third one would be towards the future. Where am I heading because of that? What are my intentions? Are mine or are of those people, of those situations? Where am I going? And that's the question of the heels.
Yeah.
Like, where am I standing and where am I going to put the heel? Because health is about where I'm going and how the energy is moving. If I'm not moving, if I'm still shocked by what happened, I'm not going to heal. The next question is, where am I going to put my heel in the next steps? Where am I heading to? What's my purpose? And so on.
It just keeps coming back to the power and the importance of doing emotional mastery work.
It's basically that. Like, emotion is energy. I say energy in motion. It's a constant motion of energy. So what is energy? Everything. We are energy. We are packages of data in shape of energy. Electrons spin around a proton, energy. So what are you? Chemical elements that are atoms, that is atomic energy, packaged in a different way. We have that power within that becomes emotions, organically become emotions when we are not using it correctly. So when we don't know how to use the machine correctly, that energy, and we call that emotion. So in order to heal a machine, you need to correct the emotion. And that makes you think about, what is my emotion? Where am I moving? Am I moving, or I'm just thinking that I'm moving, but actually I'm like a hamster in the same wheel, spinning and running, but in the same position all the time?
Yeah. And somebody that chooses not to do the work, like, for example, your grandmother, do you think that she'll then just have further opportunities to get the same lessons again and again?
Oh, yeah. The universe is eternal.
Yeah.
So plenty of time.
Yeah. And what about for people that are listening and they have someone that they love that has died? What would you say to them? Like, I'm sure they're asking questions like what happens specifically after we die, but what would you want them to know?
I think it's important to understand that when someone dies, their energy expands. So that expansion goes to different levels. There's one aspect of that expansion that goes to the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension that expands into different dimensions. But other aspects of you expands in the third dimension, meaning insects will eat from you, that will feed birds and roots, that will give power to flowers and seeds, that will create honey for beehives and so on. So you expand in different dimensions. You don't only expand in the fourth or heaven, but you also expand into this one. So that means that the person that just died, one aspect expands very fast to the fourth dimension, which is that moment when you see your whole life and the tunnel and the whole thing. But then you go to the fifth dimension, which is information, and you start to expand to other levels. But the physical aspect of you, it takes months until it expands into nature. One of the things that I would say to the people that are close to people that have died recently is to allow those beings, those people, to expand. Because if we grab them and say, we don't want for you to leave, why did you leave? I want for you to stay with me. So you provoke a contraction, but they cannot come back to the body. So they get stuck in the energetics of a place. So it's very beautiful to accompany someone to leave and to expand. And I remember from my grandmother, I was in the hospital and I created a whole portal under the bed. With a lot of crystals and things. And I put all these crystals that reflect rainbows and was playing the crystal ball. And the nurses used to come to the room just to relax and then leave. Because, of course, she chose the other path. So I was creating a tunnel for her to expand faster. And of course, I gave her a lot of cannabis illegally.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Support on all dimensions.
Yeah, she said, give me that thing that you give me.
Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah, to expand the mind and the body. So I think it's very important for us to accompany those who are going or just left to expand to every dimension. And
to grieve, I guess, and to honor that, but also to hold it and letting them go. Because not just back to what you were saying around not holding on to it energetically for you, then it's a spiritual opportunity to let go.
Yeah.
That serves you and them.
Exactly.
And no separation. Yeah.
And that's why I also, like, personally, I don't like to put bodies on a coffin.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's more difficult for those people to expand to nature again. Because they are kind of trapped. And this is actually a tradition we kept from the Middle East because we believed we would use the same body when we reincarnate. So they had to keep it as possible equally so we could use it back. That's the mummification stories and everything. But actually we go back to the source. And if we are energy, we are fire. So that's why the cultures that burn their bodies, not immediately. That's the other problem. That you need at least 7 days to do the whole process of the body processing the energy and releasing the whole energy. So
that's what you recommend.
That's what I would recommend to have a time or help the body during the first hours or the first day to release all the energy with whatever, many techniques, so it doesn't get attached to the body, and then release it through fire. So we become energy and the plants can eat us, the birds, it comes back freely. to everything, to the source.
Yeah. Beautiful. These are so helpful to share. Let's take the analogy of this being Earth School. It's almost as if we are at the first day of class, but we skipped that where we get the syllabus, where we're getting oriented about what we're doing here and why. So we're here on Earth School, but we skipped the first day. Let's pretend that I'm in 5th grade and you're explaining this whole thing. What's happening? Wait, before you answer that, I know that's a big question. So let's end this session and we'll start on the next episode.
Sure.
On this one. Stay tuned for next week when we release part 2 when he answers what is it we're doing here on Earth School and so much more. Thank you so much for doing this work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a difference. And if you're finding value in this podcast, a cost-free way to support us is by following us. It does help us grow, and we are so grateful. Leave a review on Apple or Spotify, submit a screenshot of that, and upload it to alyssanobriga.com/podcast. As a thank you gift, we will be sending you one of the most powerful tools that you can use on any area of your life to help you tap into your full potential so that you don't let fear hold you back from really stepping into your dreams. I have so much more magic I want to share with you, and I cannot wait to do that soon. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for being an example of what it's like to live with an open heart and mind in the world.